I'm Gina Bednarz. I want to first of all thank Amber for bringing me booze, just in case. 3 different choices, depending on what I decided I needed. I don't know how you talk with your heart beating like up here. My thank yous are many, heartfelt and inadequate. Stephen, Jana, and Janet, thank you for creating and sustaining a program. Oh, man. That gives writers a voice that alternately shouts and whispers, but demands to be heard by the world. To my mentors, Alex Johnson, who was notably the first person to tell me, this is your book. To the incomparable Pam Petro, who I've lovingly and definitely not creepily stalked for the last 3 semesters. Thank you for not hiding. For her humor, compassion, guidance, and friendship. And to Jane Brox, my first and final mentor, for her encouragement, support, and infinite patience during a very trying thesis semester. Thank you for never giving up on me, and for not allowing me to give up on myself. To the posse. To Tracy Strauss, for being the other side of my coin. Your courage inspires me every day. Inner posse, Tuesday night girls, I love each of you more than I can ever say. Thank you for being my family. To my children, my cheerleaders, the ones who gave up Mom for long stretches of time so she could chase her dream and never complained. Thank you for your infectious enthusiasm. I am so proud to be your mom. To my husband, Dave, because among countless other things, 7 years ago when I was looking for a book that didn't exist, simply said, go write it. And then gave me everything I needed to do just that. To baby Jax, who's taught me more about appreciating every moment of this life in his 9 short months on this planet than I ever knew was possible. And to Mom, I hope I've done our shared journeys justice and that you're out there somewhere, dancing on a cloud and pointing at me with that big grin on your face and proclaiming, that's my dog. I'm going to read you a short chapter from the middle of my memoir, Chasing Daylight, about losing my mom to Alzheimer's disease, but learning that the memories that we make are more powerful than the loss of them. It's already the end of August, and I'm facing my first birthday without my mother. It comic relief, always good. Dave comes home from work with a birthday surprise for me. He's arranged for his parents to babysit so that he and I can get away for a couple of days. When we arrive at the Oxford Hotel in downtown Denver, the scent of my favorite stargazer lilies wafts from the doorway of our room. I walk inside, lie down on the bed, and let the softness of it encircle my body like a womb. Dave hands me an envelope that contains the rest of my birthday surprise. 2 tickets for the Colorado Rockies game that afternoon. Seats on the first level next to the Rockies dugout, close enough to smell the sweat and hear the swearing. Somehow he seems to know just what I need, and the smell of the ballpark in my nose is a great place to start. I need to shield my eyes with my palm as the sun sets over left field. I need a foot-long hot dog, dripping with ketchup and mustard, and a watered-down soda in an oversized souvenir cup. I need to see the green grass of the outfield stretch out before me, and to marvel in the contrast between the color of the field and the red clay of the track around it. I need the crack of the bats, the thump of the ball hitting the catcher's cement, and the healing magic of baseball. Baseball, I say. This is the perfect present, babe. Thank you so much. There's more going on here than the Rockies game, he says. Someone you know was named the hitting coach for the team a couple of months ago, and I thought you might try to see him. Someone I know is a coach for the Rockies? Dwayne Espy, he says, with a grin that stretches almost as wide as his face. The Berkshire Brewers, the Atlantic League's AA baseball farm team, became a chapter in our family folklore on a warm day in May of 1976. They rolled into the Lenox Motel's gravel driveway on an old Greyhound bus, and 28 young men stretched and yawned, spit and scratched, as they unfolded themselves from their seats and filed down the bus steps toward the front door of our motel. From the second they stepped off the bus, Mom adopted them as her boys. She cooked for them, squeezed them into our home for Sunday dinners, and acted as amateur psychologist when homesickness had them in its clutches. That summer was a mild one in the Berkshires. The dry, hard baseball flew far into the outfield of Pittsfield's historic Wacona Park. Bats cracked and splintered at home plate when batters connected with the ball in the weak spot near their hands, and the 3,500 spectator seats in the park were permanently covered with a layer of the fine red sand that had been blown up from the field. In that favorite summer of my memory, Mom is perched on the edge of the rickety folding chair in the box seats the team manager had reserved for us. With her elbows on her knees and her hands cupping the sides of her mouth, she hollers, "Come on, boys, Mama's watching," as soon as one of her boys makes its way to the plate. She takes a deep breath with every practice swing of the wooden bat, and when the batter grinds the tips of his cleats into the box, tilts his head down, and bounces at his knees and hips, she holds her breath until the pitcher releases a side-armed curve. She stands up in her seat and cheers when the ump calls a ball and brushes off the strikes by screaming, "That's right, you wait for your pitch." Second baseman Dwayne Espy had been drafted to the Brewers farm team from his California high school in 1970, and by the time the club arrived on our doorstep that summer, he held sway as the team veteran. With his seniority came privilege, and he was the only player on the team allowed to travel with a spouse. And what a couple they made. Dwayne's square jaw and dark wavy hair created the perfect contrast to Janet's beautiful long blonde tresses and Miss America figure. They arrived in a beat-up VW Bug the day after the rest of the team, only to find out they'd have to share a double room with another guy. Mom, romantic to her core, stepped in with another offer. "You know," she said, "we have a little cottage in Beckett that you and your wife are welcome to use. It's about an hour from here, and it's nothing fancy, but it's quiet, has plenty of privacy for a newlywed couple, and it's yours if you'd like it." Dwayne and Janet nodded with enthusiasm. "We'd love that. Thank you so much." "I'll get you the keys," she said, "and I'll draw you a map. Just make sure you come down and see us every once in a while." And they did. They showed up at the motel hours before the bus was to leave for home games at Wacona, and stayed well into the evening after celebrating a win or easing the collective conscience of the rookies after a loss. Life on the road in Double-A ball meant small paychecks, dusty buses, cold coffee, and an abundance of loneliness. And no matter the situation they encountered, the guys knew that if they needed someone to understand, they could go to Espy. Janet and Mom bonded over coffee and husbands. They swapped the kind of stories that only wives can tell, and Mom led the way with the tales of the early days with my father. They laughed over Mom's recounting of how she finally got her terrified of commitment bachelor to settle down and start a family. And Janet talked about their time on the road and the uncertainty and frustration of Dwayne's 6 years at the minor league level. These two women, the blonde newlywed in her Brewers ball cap, dungarees, and t-shirt, and the 40-year-old motel owner with her frosted hair pushed back away from her face with her glasses, who was still wearing bell-bottomed pants and flowing 60s tops, sat for hours around the table in our kitchen with steaming mugs of coffee in front of them, undaunted by the clamor of male voices in the periphery. When I think of Mom now, I see her as she was then, a smiling, laughing caricature of her best self. The team floated in and out of our living room and kitchen that summer like they were part of the family. My sister taught Jim Ganner how to play the organ. Greg Berardi tried to get Mom to release her secret spaghetti gravy recipe to him with no success. And Larry Sorensen played fetch with our dog Candy. The guys sat down on the front porch of the motel and smoked cigars with my dad, let Mom ice down their bruised elbows and aching shoulders, and ran the bases of Wacona Park at 68 home games. On that 68th afternoon, the sun set in our eyes. Mom wore her Jackie O sunglasses, Dad's cigar hung out the side of his mouth, and Suzanne and I stuffed ourselves with hot dogs and drank enough soda to float ourselves across the outfield. And Mom called them each and every one by name as they approached the plate, snagged a fly ball, or slid into third. And by the end, transfused with her energy and confidence, they celebrated a narrow victory over the Quebec Metros. We watched them round the bases one last time as a team, lift their hats in the air, and in the only season that the Brewers farm team would ever play in the Berkshires. An hour before the game, Dave and I walk into Coors Field. It's a place I've been to many times since the park opened in 1994, but I see it differently today. I close my eyes and I'm back at Wacona, sitting again in the metal folding chairs and asking Mom for soda money. There's a mixture of joy and pain in me that I have no words to describe. We find our seats and ask for him by name. Dave pleads with a bat boy to go and let him know he has a visitor. And when he bounds up the steps of the dugout, a few minutes later, the past 30 years fall away. Dwayne Espy's dark hair has turned the color of polished nickel. His jaw and waistline have rounded since the last time I saw him, but the familiar glint of his blue eyes remains unchanged. He holds out his hand to me, and I take it in my own, feeling the warmth of it from a time in my memory. Mr. Espy, you might not remember me, but you played for the 1976 Berkshire Brewers, and that summer, you and your wife stayed in a little cottage by a lake in Beckett. Oh my God, you're the little one, he says in a rush. I laugh and nod, introduce my husband, and tell him how delighted I am to see him again. Your parents were so terrific to give us that cottage, he says. I'll never forget that. We had the best time there that summer. How are they? Your parents, I mean. Dad's doing okay. He lives in Florida now. We moved there in 1980, and he really loves it. I take a deep breath, lower my head, and continue. But we lost Mom on New Year's Day this year to Alzheimer's. Oh, God, no, he says. Your mom? Alzheimer's? I can't even imagine. She was so sharp, so full of life. Young, too, right? She just turned 70 when she died. A lot of years have gone by since the Lenox Motel. Hard to believe, he says. His eyes turn glassy and he shakes his head to collect himself before he continues. I'm so sorry to hear that. What a damn shame. Thank you so much, I say. I'm so glad you remember her. She would have loved that. How could I forget? Your mother was one of a kind. I gave a eulogy at her funeral in January, and I actually talked about you guys. She followed all of you as best she could over the years. She watched your career as a manager and always said what a natural fit that would have been for you. She cried when she heard that Dan Thomas committed suicide in Florida, and when she heard that Ray Hall blew out his shoulder and would never play the game again. And she sat in front of the television and watched Jim Gantner being inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. And she said that thing that she used to say at all of your games at Wacona Park. In the warm sunshine of Coors Field in Denver, the corner of Dwayne Espy's mouth turned up and revealed the gap-toothed smile that I remember. Mom was watching, he says. Thank you.